Which brings us back to the issue at the heart of it all, officiating. It has become the defining failure of this WNBA season. That might sound dramatic, but it's reality. The league is being dragged down by referees who simply aren't up to the standard. Thrilling games and stellar performances are being eclipsed by blown calls, blatant inconsistency, and, at times, outright negligence. Players are getting hurt because officials can't control the physicality. Stars like Caitlin Clark are sidelined for weeks due to reckless, unchecked defense. And the lack of intervention is putting careers in jeopardy. The damage isn't just physical, it's reputational. Sophie Cunningham being slammed to the floor with no whistle wasn't just a missed call. It was a glaring symbol of everything that's going wrong. And Clark's bench outburst, not just passion, but pent-up frustration boiling over. These aren't isolated moments. They're symptoms of a crisis threatening to derail what should be a landmark season. Fans are packing arenas, viewership is rising, and momentum is real. But if games feel unsafe, or worse, unfair, that momentum could disappear overnight. That kind of arrogance is breathtaking, especially after Fever fans welcomed her like royalty. All the while she was quietly scheming her exit. If this whole situation has you as stunned, and disappointed as we are, smash the like button and drop Investigate Bonner in the comments. We're about to show, step by step, how this betrayal unfolded. Hard-hitting version. Pure arrogance, unbelievable, given how Fever fans treated her like a queen. Behind the scenes, she was plotting her escape. If you're as shocked and let down as the rest of us, hit like and type, Investigate. In the comments. Next up, a blow-by-blow expose of how the backstab went down. Which brings us back to the issue at the heart of it all, officiating. It has become the defining failure of this WNBA season. That might sound dramatic, but it's reality. The league is being dragged down by referees who simply aren't up to the standard. Thrilling games and stellar performances are being eclipsed by blown calls, blatant inconsistency, and, at times, outright negligence. Players are getting hurt because officials can't control the physicality. Stars like Caitlin Clark are sidelined for weeks due to reckless, unchecked defense, and the lack of intervention is putting careers in jeopardy. The damage isn't just physical, it's reputational. Sophie Cunningham being slammed to the floor with no whistle wasn't just a missed call, it was a glaring symbol of everything that's going wrong. And Clark's bench outburst, not just passion, but pent-up frustration boiling over. These aren't isolated moments. They're symptoms of a crisis threatening to derail what should be a landmark season. Fans are packing arenas, viewership is rising, and momentum is real. But if games feel unsafe, or worse, unfair, that momentum could disappear overnight. At this point, it's not even about basketball. It's about professionalism and basic respect. Fans buy tickets, wear jerseys, and back the franchise because they trust players to show up and put in the work. Bonner's stint in Indy wasn't some soul-searching journey. It was a calculated cash grab that left both the team and its supporters feeling duped and abandoned by someone they once believed in. But here's where it gets even more infuriating. Peel back the layers, and you see a much bigger problem with how professional contracts are handled today, and how some athletes have gotten far too comfortable skating by without accountability. Let's start with the most damning evidence: the massive gap between what Bonner promised and what she actually delivered after signing that big money deal. Of course they're going to love you, because you screwed over the Fever. Phoenix Mercury fans will love you. Rival fans will love you. Anyone who isn't a Fever fan. Fan will love you. But Fever fans, they'll hate you, and for good reason. We're talking about a veteran who averaged a miserable 7.1 points per game, clanking shots and jogging around like she couldn't care less. This wasn't someone fighting to find their form. It was someone mailing it in, biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to bolt. She started just 3 of the 9 games she even bothered to play. That alone shows how little she was contributing, even when available. The numbers don't lie: 3.8 rebounds, 1.6 assists per game, bench-level stats at best. Nowhere near what you expect from a veteran free agent brought in to provide stability and leadership to a young, hungry roster. She wasn't just disappointing, she was invisible. And yet, despite her lackluster play, Fever fans stayed patient. They believed she could turn it around. They gave her the benefit of the doubt. But instead of using that goodwill to spark a comeback, Bonner seemed to decide it wasn't worth the effort and stopped trying. The Fever front office built the roster and salary cap expecting her to be a cornerstone, and she repaid them. When things didn't go her way. It's a manipulative move that sends the worst possible message to the rest of the league. If you don't like your role, just tank your effort until you get your way. And here's what really sets off every Indiana fan who's been paying attention. The second Bonner slipped into a Phoenix Mercury jersey, she magically transformed back into the player we thought we were getting. Suddenly, she's putting up 22 points and 11 rebounds like it's nothing, by just her second game. Funny how that works, isn't it? This isn't about finding her rhythm or adapting to a new system. This is proof that Bonner was sandbagging her time in Indiana. The fire was there all along. She just chose to keep it on ice until she could play where she wanted, alongside her fiancée, Alyssa Thomas. That sudden jump in production isn't just suspicious, it's a dead giveaway. Even casual fans could see it. Her performance in Phoenix was basically a confession. She could have helped the Fever. She just didn't want to. Comparing her numbers in Indiana to her sudden explosion in Phoenix is like watching two completely different players. That's what happens when someone finally decides to put in the effort after months of coasting. It's calculated, plain and simple, the worst kind of entitlement, using your platform to toy with a franchise while the people who back you are left paying the price. The most insulting part? Bonner's now acting like she gave Indiana everything she had, as if she didn't deliberately sandbag an entire franchise and let down an entire city. Phoenix fans are celebrating her resurgence like she just broke out of a slump, conveniently ignoring the fact they're reaping the rewards of someone else's betrayal. This isn't about one hot streak, it's about the dangerous precedent it sets, letting players dodge accountability without consequences. And what makes it even harder to stomach is remembering how she arrived in Indiana talking big, embracing the fan base like she was ready to build something special. There were no complaints. No hints she was unhappy. She played the part perfectly, smiled for the cameras, said all the right things, right up until the moment she decided she was done. Bonner once gushed about the massive fan support in Indianapolis, saying she had never experienced anything like it before. She seemed genuinely moved by the electric crowds, the wall of Fever jerseys, and the unwavering loyalty of Indiana supporters. She talked about chasing a championship, about mentoring rising stars like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston as they found their footing in the pro game. These weren't throwaway media quotes. They were full-throated endorsements of a city and a team that embraced her without hesitation. And that's exactly why the betrayal cuts so deep. Fans bought her jersey. They shared her story online. They defended her when her production fell short of her paycheck, insisting she just needed time to gel with the roster. They clipped and posted her rare flashes of brilliance, calling her the veteran glue player who would eventually come through. Now, learning she may have been plotting her exit from the moment she signed, it feels like an emotional con job. The hasn't cooled, because this wasn't just a team switch. It was a bridge-burning exit from someone who knowingly betrayed the faith placed in her. In any other profession, you don't get to lie your way through a paycheck and then pretend it was all fair play. And yet, here we are, made worse by the deafening silence from the Fever's front office. Not a word about how this actually unraveled, which only feeds suspicion that the mess was mishandled from the start. It's not hard to imagine coaching decisions, especially from Stephanie White, factoring in maybe promises about playing time or leadership status that evaporated once the real games began. But with neither side willing to be transparent, it's the fans left piecing together a puzzle they never asked for, trying to make sense of a drama that should have never spiraled this far. If you connect the dots, Bonner's discontent started bubbling right when Lexi Hull began proving she deserved more minutes. That's when the storm clouds rolled in. If Christy Sides had promised Bonner a starter role and then backtracked once Hull outplayed her, that's on the coaching staff for poor planning and even worse communication. By refusing to clarify what really happened, the Fever look either like they lost control of the situation, or like they're hiding something. Neither is a good look for attracting future free agents. Then there's Bonner's post-departure spin, the one where she frames being asked to come off the bench as some outrageous insult to her career. It's almost comical when you remember she's won 6th Woman of the Year 3 times, a trophy that literally celebrates bench dominance. Yet suddenly she's acting like it was beneath her. The contradiction couldn't be more blatant, and it reeks of someone rewriting history to save face. If coming off the bench wasn't a problem for Bonner, then why did she disappear the moment her starting spot became shaky? Why did personal reasons suddenly emerge only after the rotation shifted and her status was in jeopardy? The timing isn't subtle. She couldn't stomach the idea of playing second fiddle on a team that needed selfless veterans. Instead of proving her value, she walked away. That's not professionalism. That's ego running the show. The irony. Bonner should have been the perfect off-the-bench weapon, a proven scorer who could mentor younger players while still producing. But her actions told a different story. She didn't want to contribute unless she could control the terms. And when that control slipped, so did she. Now she's spinning a narrative where she's the misunderstood hero, hoping fans forget how she tanked her own value the second things didn't revolve around her. The gaslighting is so blatant it borders on insulting. At this stage of her career, Bonner should know better. Roles evolve. Lineups change. That's part of being a pro. But instead of adapting, she threw a fit. She treated her time in Indiana like a side gig she could quit when it stopped serving her, not as a commitment to a team that needed her buy-in. And wouldn't you know it, the second she left, everything fell neatly into place for her personal life. Her "everything happens for a reason" line loses its shine when you realize the reason was proximity to her fiancée, Alyssa Thomas, not some deep professional calling. The destination. Phoenix, of course. That's not coincidence. That's convenience. Her pre-selected landing spot and perfectly timed exit make it obvious Indiana was always a stopgap, a salary cushion while she plotted her way out. The Mercury's willingness to play along only reinforces the message that contracts are optional and ethics take a back seat to personal agendas. Bonner and Thomas now get to play together, while Indiana eats the cap hit and the roster hole. That's not team building. That's manipulation dressed up as a love story. But the ugliest part of this saga isn't Bonner's maneuvering. It's what it says about Indiana's front office. They got worked. Completely. Outmaneuvered by a veteran who knew exactly how to twist the system to her advantage. And the fact she pulled it off raises serious questions about this team's ability to manage talent, enforce accountability, and set a winning culture. When you're trying to build around a generational star like Caitlin Clark, the last thing you can afford is a front office that folds every time a player makes noise. Bonner showed everyone the blueprint. In Indiana, if you push hard enough, you can get out. Contract, commitment, and impact be damned. That's a dangerous reputation for any franchise. The Fever should have taken control of the situation early, either defuse it behind closed doors or shape the public narrative before it spiraled. Instead, they stayed silent, letting speculation run wild and credibility erode. Now Kelly Krauskopf and Amber Cox have to sell future free agents on the idea that Indiana is a no-nonsense, professional operation, even though this entire mess screams otherwise. The trust is broken, and until the Fever prove they can enforce standards, keep veterans accountable, and put the team above individual agendas, they'll stay vulnerable to being used by players chasing a paycheck without putting in the work. The Bonner incident didn't just dent Indiana's season. It handed every disgruntled veteran a step-by-step guide for cashing in and skipping town. And that's not just a PR problem. It's an operational failure that threatens everything this franchise is trying to build. Support was real. Her commitment never was. This wasn't some polite, mutual parting over strategic differences. This was a veteran player exploiting trust, cashing in on the perks, and then bailing the moment a better situation came along. That's why the anger